Thanks everyone for listening to this session today. I'm Reema Harrison from the Australian Institute of Health Innovation, and today I'm going to be talking about some evaluative work that we've done alongside a co-design project in which we've sought to collaborate with consumers from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds to actually collaborate in the planning and execution of co-design processes. We sought to take this approach to co-design as a possible strategy to try to mitigate some of the challenges that we and many others have identified around co-design with people from different cultural and linguistic backgrounds. I'm going to call this group the CALD population. That's a term that we use in Australia and you may be familiar with, and it stands for culturally and linguistically diverse populations. Growing use of co-design and related approaches to create healthcare change has brought within its scrutiny of who contributes and gains to the process. And there's evidence to suggest that people from diverse backgrounds, such as CALD populations, often experience both poorer engagement in the co-design process and then kind of less value from the outcomes as a result of that. And that can be a particular challenge in relation to health inequities and addressing those for those populations. So we're in the third year of a large programme of work called CanEngage, and it's about improving healthcare safety and cancer services for people from CALD backgrounds by increasing their engagement in care. And so on this slide I've got an overview of the studies in the work, and we've completed everything up to the end of the yellow sections for one of 6 sites across 2 states in Australia, and these are all cancer services with inpatient and outpatient care. And we've got co-design completed at one site and going on in 5 sites at the moment with CALD communities. So this work's created an opportunity for us to scrutinise the co-design process for people from a whole range of different backgrounds and with different abilities and kind of language and cultural preferences. So we've sought to examine how we can try and enhance the process of doing co-design for people from CALD communities. And one of the approaches that we've sought to take is to try to amplify the voice of people from different backgrounds to be in co-design processes and actually take part through having co-facilitators who are also from a range of different backgrounds to drive the co-design process, most of whom are consumers. So we've been seeking to try and achieve 3 main outcomes from the way that we do co-design. The first is to widen participation in actually knowing about and taking part in co-design projects. The second is to increase the quality of engagement that then happens in co-design projects. And the third is to build capacity amongst consumers from diverse backgrounds to be able to lead and contribute to this kind of work. So today I'm focusing on one particular strategy that we've taken, and that is to train with CALD consumers to be facilitators in the co-design process. So there's generally 2 facilitators in the way that we've been working, one member of the existing research team and a consumer co-facilitator from a different CALD background, and there are a number of people who participate in this from all different backgrounds. And so the purpose of the training was to orient the facilitators to the project and to one another, and then to discuss and agree together how co-facilitation might work, what we would do, and to discuss together and consider how we can provide appropriate support to co-design members as facilitators, but also how facilitators will be supported before, during and after the process. So I'm presenting here the very initial evaluative work, so it's just kind of very early on in this process that we did some work. And the work, the evaluative work, the interviews were done by some external colleagues to be able to see whether the training that we did was useful to prepare for co-facilitation and what the impacts of that training were seen to be. And then this is part of a wider evaluation of the impacts of the training on the experiences of the co-facilitators as we go through the process and complete co-design over the coming years. So there were 2 people who were external researchers who were members of the team presenting here, who did the interviews and who did the analysis, and then the wider team contributed to that process to make sense of those data resulting. So our interviews revealed 3 main outcomes of the training process. Firstly, facilitators raised their motivations for wishing to be involved and contribute to CanEngage as facilitators, and the importance of those motivations for being able to take on a co-leadership role. So many of them raised the belief that having shared motivations as a facilitation team is actually critical to be able to take on the role effectively. So as a consumer who has a particular perspective in trying to improve care and support other consumers to be more active, that seemed to be qualities that were seen as important to be successful in the co-leadership role. And there was the conversation around perhaps the need for careful thought into the process of identifying people who may wish to be co-facilitators and how that process works, and that actually there was quite a lot of thinking about that went into this process. So the most valuable elements of the training itself were actually seen to be the opportunity to build connections between co-facilitators, who found the informal conversations throughout the day were very valuable to build a network. And importantly, that was something that was lost for the online attendees. So there were a couple of people who couldn't join because they had COVID at the time or they were just recovering. And unfortunately, that did impact the experience of the training, because one of the main benefits was seen to be the opportunity to get to know informally other people who were there. So that's something for us to bear in mind. The other outcome valued by facilitators was the opportunity to get to discuss together and debate and ultimately agree how we're going to work together. We expressed that in the output of the terms of reference, and what that did was help us to talk through knowledge gaps from all sides, information gaps, how logistical issues, think about unanticipated things that we hadn't really even considered, and so that allowed people to be really feel prepared for the process of going into co-design together. So what we've taken away from that early stage of evaluation is really kind of getting together with multiple consumers as a bit of a community of practice can create strong momentum, kind of a close connection ahead of going into multiple co-design projects, and really that you can bounce off one another, generate quite a lot of energy in the group, and there's then practical value as well of having conversations in that group, which allows you to kind of discuss how you want to work together, what you're expecting from your roles, and what will happen beyond that. As a result of that meeting, we agreed and continue to meet together and have a kind of 6 weekly newsletter that's just talking about where things are up to in the project. Obviously, if there's multiple co-designs going on, but there may only be 1 or 2 people involved in one at any given time, so there's the need to have that ongoing connection. What's also come to light through the actual process of coming back into co-design to actually do the design work has been that we need to be able to support and build skills during the co-design process, and we really found one-to-one conversations and support between the co-design meetings that we have with members was really important to be able to get on the same page as co-facilitators and try and plan and work through that process together. So we're also evaluating that strategy as we go, and we'll see when we get to the end of multiple co-designs whether that's been something that's been of value and what value it's actually held. So I'm going to wrap up there, but thank you so much for listening, and if you've got any comments or questions on this presentation, you can contact me in the first instance on that email, and if you want some more information about our team over at Macquarie University, you can follow the link that's there.